Hey guys, this is CelebrityTV, and I'm Zola.
And I'm Busy B. What's going on, fam? O.J. Simpson, American People versus O.J., the finale. The episode was called The Verdict.
Right, and it shows that how everything went down. I mean, the year 1995, how when the verdict came down, the show before the verdict and after the verdict, and how the people reacted. There's people who was happy and there's people who wasn't happy. A lot of people was cheering and celebrating after the verdict, but you know.
Yeah, it opened up and it showed OJ getting ready to go to court to receive the verdict, and he was nervous, while he was shaving. One of the COs, what people call correction officers, has said to him that it was a privilege for him to be there due to the fact that, while he was incarcerated, he showed like really good behavior. And OJ, while he was shaving, OJ was like, I'm kind of nervous, and the CO told him some inside information. He says some of my buddies who work with the jury said that you don't have nothing to be nervous about. So, I guess that's pretty self-explanatory that the jury had decided to vote not guilty. Now, did you see the part where the majority of the jurors voted not guilty, except for 2 jurors voted guilty? And what the big thing was, let me explain that to you, is that if you were to cut or murder somebody with a big knife and you're constantly stabbing them, I mean, there's going to be a lot of blood, not just on the victim, but it's going to be a lot of blood on the suspect. And the prosecution said that OJ blood was in the Bronco, but that little bit of blood, the defense felt that Mark Fuhrman and parts of the LAPD pretty much tried to frame OJ. Because if you're going to stab somebody that many times, you're going to have almost as much blood on you as they have on them.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's what basically the jury was saying, that, he couldn't have done it because where was all that blood supposedly on him? And also, according to other forensic scientists, that if you're going to stab somebody that many times, and according to the research, that Ronald Goldman was heavy into martial arts and he was fighting back. So if you're going to stab somebody that many times, you're going to have wounds on you. Also, in reality, when they checked Ronald Goldman's fist, his fist had bruises on it. And according to research, those bruises only happen when you hit somebody, when you get some good shots and you get a good punches in. And in the very least, the person would have a black eye. OJ didn't have none of that.
Right.
And he didn't have no bruises on his body.
Right, he didn't have injuries consistent with someone
who would stab somebody numerous amount of times.
Right.
So the defense held up the fact that they believed that O.J. Simpson was set up by the LAPD. And what had happened was the jury had concluded that whether they know whether he was guilty or not, the prosecution did not make their case.
Right.
The prosecution did not make them feel that OJ was guilty without a reasonable doubt.
Right. And the evidence was sketchy. And I think personally, I normally don't give my opinion, but I think that having Mark Fuhrman on the scene and his reputation really tarnished the prosecution's case. Because he's an officer, according to the storyline and according to the real trial, Mark Fuhrman had a history. He had a history of planting evidence. So to have someone like
against
that
against
African Americans, and to have somebody like that as one of the witnesses, and they on the scene, really, I think it
they hurt themselves.
Right.
The prosecution hurt themselves.
And Marcia Clark, she was so determined to have Mark Fuhrman as one of the witnesses, so that worked against them.
Oh yeah, that worked against them because as you can see in the series, that Christopher Darden, he didn't want Mark Fuhrman on the stand because he felt that Mark Fuhrman comes across as a guy who says what he's supposed to say instead of what's really in his heart.
Right. So we got to see some real footage during this 10-part series. Like Busy Bee said, that the title of this finale was called The Verdict. And we got to see some real footage of people's reactions. We got to see some real footage of, people protesting, people not protesting, people happy and people sad of when the verdict came down. And everything seemed so real. And if you were around there in 1995, if you watched the trial, you got to relive everything.
Got to relive everything that you saw on television because the trial was televised, and it came on TV every day until the trial was over.
Right.
And it had mixed views. It's like, I hate to say it, but the majority of the African American people was happy, and the majority of the white American people was unhappy.
Right.
And you know what? It's no secret that this country has a history of racism, and this country has a history of trying to oppress, non-whites. And some people felt that some of the African American and or black people shouldn't have been celebrating because OJ was found not guilty. But see, they don't understand. For many, many years, black people have been going to jail for certain things that they didn't do. They was framed just because of the color of their skin. They was beaten. They was abused. They was denied good housing, good jobs. They was denied grants and a lot of opportunity. So the reason why the black people was so happy and overjoyed that OJ was found not guilty, I believe it wasn't just because, he was a football hero, but for all the times that a black person went to jail for stuff they didn't do, for all the times that black people got an astronomical amount of jail time, whereas if a white person did it, he may have gotten a modest amount of jail time. For all the oppression and the racism that black people have experienced from the police, I believe that the black people were so happy that he was found not guilty, as if they were saying to white America, we finally got you back. We finally got our revenge. So I'm not saying that OJ was guilty, because we got to remember 2 lives were lost.
Right.
Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. 2 precious lives was lost. But I'm just telling you that I believe in the black people mind. When OJ was found not guilty, they were saying, we finally got our revenge on the racist part of white America. Not all of white America, but the racist part of white America and the corrupt part of the police department.
Right. So, there you have it, guys. That was the verdict. I don't know if they can continue this
with a season 2.
Well, I wish they would, because it was very good.
Oh, from episode 1 to episode last night, it was really good.
And the actors were excellent.
The actors was excellent. Courtney B. Vance played a dynamic Johnny Cochran, and it was really, really good. John Travolta played a very good, very dynamic, great Robert Shapiro. All the actors just did a great job.
Yes, they did a wonderful job. At the end of the episode, you got to see the outcome of everyone that was involved. Marcia Clark, Chris Darden, everybody who was involved, what became of them after the trial, and I know the jurors were probably just very relieved that this whole process was over, because they had to stop their lives for this trial, the trial of the century. You got to see O.J. Simpson when he was released. I think more than anything, OJ was surprised that the reaction of the people, especially in Brentwood, how they were not as receptive as he wanted them to be. He gave a party, and, he was starting to see how non-receptive people was, and how, there was some form of resentment there. And you also got to see Robert Kardashian, his reaction.
I felt sorry for him, because he began to have second thoughts concerning OJ's innocence. And it really affected him emotionally. Okay, you guys, that pretty much wraps it up. So we just brought you the review of the season finale of The American People versus O.J. Simpson, called The Verdict. You saw the episode yourself. O.J. Simpson was found not guilty, and it was mixed reviews from African Americans who were celebrating to white Americans who seemed to be disappointed and felt that the verdict was unfair. Nevertheless, I mean, 2 innocent people were killed, Ronald Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. So up until this day, even though this happened years ago, our heart still goes out to their families and to them. All right, guys, we talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in to this review. We speak to you real soon.
This is Zola.
And I'm Busy B. And this is Celebrity TV. We out. 100.
1.